Supervisor Jim Desmond is putting forward a letter for tomorrow's Board of Supervisors meeting titled Lifting Up At-Risk Students, Building Lifelong Bonds with Law Enforcement and Creating a More Inclusive and Safer Campus Environment. Mr. Desmond joins us now with a special guest, a graduate of Camp Lead, Luana Woods Medeiros.
Hi.
Hey, thank you for coming along with the county supervisor.
Thanks for having me.
It's your letter. Why don't you broad stroke it out for us, and we'll get to Luana in a little bit.
Okay, well, this Camp Lead actually started up after the 2001 shootings, unfortunately, at Santana High School and at Granite Hills High School. And what the Grossmont Unified School District did is they put together this camp so that kids could feel connected, feel inclusive, talk with other kids, in the high schools, and so that they could be, learn some more interpersonal skills. And what we've learned from these shooters, unfortunately, is most of them young men. They're loners. They were bullied. They have a past that is just unfortunate, and then they lash out, in these dramatic ways, which is terrible. So this Camp Lead, it tries to get those types of kids, both high achievers and lower achievers, together for a 3-day camp, 2 nights, 3 days, and where they can learn interpersonal skills, or they can learn that, hey, this person who they look up to or admire has the same problems they do. They have the same anxieties. And so this camp, and they get to interact with law enforcement and with different leaders, and they really get to feel then more connected, so that we, help them not to be the loners or the outliers. They feel more connected to the school and the community. And I'm putting money towards this, and I want to enhance it and give more dollars towards this effort.
I think if you put the bios, you're talking about dramatic and tragic results. If you put the bios of these shooters all together, there's so many similarities: isolation, not feeling like they're part of the school. So Camp Lead.
Yes.
We title you as a graduate of Camp Lead. Tell us about what you learned specifically and what the experience was like.
Yeah, I actually went to camp in 1998. It's an experiential camp, and so it's easy to kind of talk about more difficult issues. So we talk about racism, sexism, classism, and our experience with that, and as victims, as perpetrators, as bystanders. And for me, I had never had an opportunity to kind of talk about that stuff. And I have been a victim, and I've also been a perpetrator. And so it was an opportunity for me to reflect on the choices that I was making. It was an opportunity for me to make connections with people, like kind of heart to heart. For a long time, I would let race get in the way, or these other things get in the way for me really getting to know people. I had my guard up, and it really helped me to build some strong connections that helped me to eventually get sober, to graduate high school, to continue to volunteer. I share my story at camp with students because I know that a lot of people are going through it, and they need good role models, and they need good examples of people that have been through difficult times and gotten over them.
Why don't you share a little bit of your story with us right now?
Yeah, generationally, my family has been involved with drugs and alcohol and gangs and poverty, and so I didn't really see myself in the typical success story. I couldn't see myself there, and because I had experienced so much racism and being called certain names and being put down, I just didn't feel like I had a real shot. I felt like my legacy was going to be to continue to do the things that my family were doing. I met my dad when he was in prison in San Quentin. That's the first time I met him. And my mom went to prison when I was about 6 years old. She did 7 years, and I just saw myself going down that same path.
So you're trying to, obviously, and you have broken the cycle. So
yeah,
you wouldn't be sitting here with us. So we want to repeat this story, not 100 times over, but 1,000 times over, maybe tens of thousands of times over, right? Is that possible to do?
Well, pre-COVID, there was about 10 or 15 camps a year going on. During COVID, a lot of kids, there was more isolation for, kids. They weren't going to school. They weren't interacting. And so now we have kind of a larger problem, I think, with isolation with children and kids. And and now, post-COVID, they've only had about 4 camps this year. We need to increase that amount of camps and engagement and things like that. And so I'm asking the county to put in resources. We want to find a permanent site, and we want to put these camps on throughout the county as often as we can, get people engaged in leadership, and let people, learn from each other. Students learning from each other. They'll listen to themselves instead of their parents. And that peer, value to learn from each other and say, hey, they're suffering from the head cheerleader suffering from the same anxiety anxieties that I'm suffering from.
And-
That kind of thing.
And this is just one layer to the onion, right? I mean, as we review gun laws and whatnot, this also has to be addressed with as much of a laser beam as the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, for kids who are watching this right now, what would you say? That's your camera. Speak right to them. I'll step out of this. What would you say to them?
Yeah, actually, there's a student that's gone to camp that's sitting right behind that camera. So I'm going to talk to you.
Okay.
There's so many things that are going on, and I know that it's difficult. And you're coming out of this pandemic, and no one made a plan for you on how to come back in. And there are opportunities for you to build connections. There are people that want to hear your story, that want to hear what you're going through, and you're not alone. We've all been sad, we've all been happy, we've all felt pain, and it's okay to share that, and it's especially okay to learn how to ask for help, how to advocate for yourself, and those are things that we teach students at Camp Lead.
You have politics in your future?
I hope not.
Good decision.
But I mean, come on, you Camp Lead, you ooze leadership. Powerful.
Thanks.
And thank you for sharing your message. Thank you for sharing your letter. And I hope we do this again when we're talking about even more camp leads being sprung up everywhere. In the meantime, powerful stuff.